I thought this is something. They all knew the national anthem, and I mean, it was just whoa. And then I stayed with them, but I also had the opportunity to go to New York 5 times. Now, I'm from this little village, and a picture of my village is, I don't know if you've seen some movies, but you know, you have these little houses, and you have those curtains, and you have this old woman that lived the curtains and know everything about your life because you're the only teenager of the village because nobody had children. They all overnight. That's how I felt in my village. Everybody knew about this one teenager. And so I ended up in New York, and it's like, oh my goodness. I went everywhere. I just thought, this never goes to sleep. This is amazing. You can do everything. I went to Broadway. I went to see a Broadway show. I mean, I was just as excited as you can be about New York because it was just so different for me. It was like, oh, everything is so exciting. Again, I'm not a born-again believer, so everything is from my perspective. And it was just a great experience. I went to Niagara Falls. I mean, I just traveled a whole lot. And I just thought, this is a land of opportunity. This is a land where dreams happen. Coming from Belgium, where it's socialism and you don't have opportunity for nothing. Once you have a job, you hold on to it like for your dear life, because that's the only job you're gonna have, because you can't change job every 2 weeks. So I was just amazed. Everything amazed me. I went to a grocery store, and I probably spent about 4 hours in the grocery store. I'm surprised they didn't come after me thinking, is she about to steal? Because I just looked at everything like a little child in the toy store. I just looked, the cereal aisle was just, I had never seen cereal. So I was like, and then I saw pancake in a box. I was like, pancake in a box? I thought you needed eggs and flour. Everything was just mind-blowing for me. I mean, mayonnaise in a jar. I mean, I never knew that you could buy mayonnaise. I grew up seeing my mom make mayonnaise. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So I still make mayonnaise. But it was a different experience.
Oh my!
It was really.
Every time you talk about this, I cry because it's amazing. I can see it, you know, like a movie, like amazed at all this stuff that you've never experienced. Mm-hmm. Culture shock for real.
When I moved to Arizona, I would purposely go to the grocery store at night, because coming from Belgium, all the stores close at 6 o'clock. And then from Friday to Monday, if you don't have your grocery, it's over. You're going to have to eat something else because the stores are closed. And I was like, I can go. I called my mom. I said, Mom, I'm at the grocery store. It's 9 o'clock and I'm buying milk. And she said, oh, this is great. It's the middle of the night for me, Amalia. I said, did you hear what I said? I mean, I just thought it was amazing.
It is amazing. And, you know, you were in New York before I ever went to New York, and I live in the United States of America. And for you to be having all these experiences in Oakland, I had been to Oakland, I had been to California, but I had never been to New York until I married you. Actually, I was a grown man with children before I ever touched down in New York. And you came all the way from across the world as a teenager. So when I was in New York, it was a different experience, you know. Right. It was like, I want to get out of here because I'm not used to this, you know, right, as an adult. Mm-hmm. But it's just amazing when you think about all those experiences and culture shocks. You went from red, white, and blue At 17, your first experience in America, the patriotic shrine where people are so excited to be American.
Yes.
And then you move to the United States of America to a university. Here you are in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, at the University of Arizona, back at the colors of red, white, and blue, with the big A.
The big A.
You're in an apartment, and again, we did this show already, so they can go back and see that. But you're in your apartment, you're cleaning, scrubbing everything, you got a spick and span, you got your bicycle. Take us further.
So I rode my bike for 6 months because you have, back then, again, this is 2001, so I'm not saying this is again like this now, but back then you had to wait 6 months after you moved to the U.S. as with a visa to be able to even get a car, because they didn't want you to drive, you know, just without any experience. And so I rode my bike everywhere, and I walked. I did a lot of walking, but I went to the grocery store with my backpack. I would put all my vegetables and fruits and my meat in my backpack, and I just rode everywhere with my bike. And I was used to it. I'm from Belgium, you know, cycling land. And I remember one time I walked. I left my bike at the apartment and I walked. And my advisor in the lab that I was in, where I was doing my research for my PhD, told me, you better get home quick tonight because monsoon is coming. Now, he had been living there for a while, so I should have known. I should have listened, but I didn't listen. I said, oh, I can handle the monsoon. I've been all over the world. So I know rain. You know, that's a typical atheist, know-it-all. And so I know rain. Oh, my goodness. I left. It took me 30 minutes to walk home, to walk from the university to my apartment. I thought I was not going to make it. Within a few minutes, the water came from my ankle all the way to up above my knees. And I was walking, it was flood. It's monsoon. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I said, oh, I should have listened to him. But it's too late. So I kept on walking, but it was like I had to almost swim home. And so that was an experience too. And I stayed in that apartment for about a year. But because I had another experience. I finally, after 6 months, I decided I'm going to get a car, simply because I wanted to go further than the radius I could hit with my bike, which is, you know, even if I ride 50 miles, it still limits you. And so I said, I'm gonna get a car. And so I decided to go around, and I had a friend that helped me in my process of purchasing a car, which was all by itself a little different because I grew up with a stick shift. That's all I knew how to drive. So I had never seen a manual, didn't know that there was a manual. Automatic, thank you. So that was an experience because I really didn't know how to drive an automatic. And so I ended up buying a car. And within a week of having my car, I'm in my car and I'm driving home I had went somewhere and it's late. And I'm just driving because in Belgium, that's what you do. You just drive. I never looked at speed limit. I just drove. You know, Germany is known for the Autobahn. There's no speed limit. You just drive. And when you want to pass, they flash their light to tell you move over. And so I'm driving, and all of a sudden, I see a bunch of blue lights behind me, which I don't know what it is because I never got pulled over. because I really didn't see police officers on the street in Belgium. So I kept on going with the blue lights behind me. Then I heard the bullhorn saying pull over in the bullhorn. I don't know what pull over means. I didn't know what it meant in English. So I kept going. And so now the blue lights intensify and the bullhorn intensifies. And I'm thinking, maybe it looked like they're trying to get my attention. Maybe something wrong with my car. So I end up pulling over. And when I pulled over, I reached in my glove compartment to get my license and I didn't have my seatbelt on either because, I just didn't really pay attention to seatbelt. And I reached to get my license. And then I heard, stop moving. Don't move, freeze. And I'm like, this freeze me, not freeze. Because to me, freeze was when you put something in the freezer. So I'm like, what? And so this police officer came at my window with his gun and his flashlight pointed at me. And I'm like, oh. He said, don't move. And I said, what? And I look, I said, oh, it's a police officer. I said, what did I do? He said, ma'am, don't move, don't talk. And I said, okay. And so I was a little respectful, so I didn't move or talk. And I looked at him, he said, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? I'm driving home. He said, ma'am, you were going 75 in a 35. I said, I can arrest you because in Arizona, once you drive 20 miles over speed limit, you can be arrested for criminal charges because you can potentially kill somebody, lose control of your vehicle and kill somebody. I said, well, I didn't know I was going 75. He said, you have an accent. Where are you from? I said, so I started telling him my story. He said, oh, I see. He said, I spent some time in Germany. I know how, he said, you guys drive. He put all Europe in the same bag. He said, you can't do that here. He said, you cannot drive like this here. We have speed limit. Didn't you take the driving test? I said, yeah, I read the book, I studied it, I passed the test, and then that's it. He said, no, that's not how it works here. We apply what you study. So I said, oh, okay. So he said, look at the speed limit. I said, okay. He said, no, I understand. I hear your heart. I'm going to let you go. He said, but please don't do that again because you will get arrested and you will get put in jail. I said, oh, I won't do that again. Of course, I was a sinner, so a week later I got pulled over. But not with the light, because as soon as I saw the blue light, at that point I stopped. But I just had a bunch of experiences because I just didn't know. And again, it's such an amazing story because God protected me and gave me so much mercy. And it's amazing. He wanted me to have all those experiences, but he protected me through it all because he wanted me to be right now at this point of my life to do what I do. And so it was just so many different things. And I had to learn about, USA and the different laws and the different things going on here and the system and just like credit cards. I didn't know what a credit card was. And so I went to the bank. Everybody told me, you got to build your credit. You got to build your credit. I said, what is that? What are you talking about? Coming from socialism. They say you just get a credit card and you build your credit. So I was very investigating. So I went to the bank. I said, I need a credit card. And they say, okay, do you know and I say, I need to know what a credit card is because I don't know what it is. I didn't know you couldn't get from a company. I just went to a bank. And they say, you can get a credit card from a bank. They say, but your limit will be limited because you have no record. You just moved here. But we can give you $200 limit. And I looked at them and I said, okay, so I have to take $200 from the cash that I have and put it on my credit card. And then, no, they say you don't have to have money on the credit card. And I looked at them like, oh, wait a minute. What are you talking about? You telling me I can swipe the card and there's no money on it? And they say, yes, you have to make payment at the end of the month. And I say, what? I say, this is crazy. I said, what if I don't make payment? Well, then you're in debt. And so you're going to come and put me in prison? No, not really. We just, hope that you're going to pay your debt. And I was like, oh, wow. This is something else. So I just had to discover everything, because socialism was, my family fought for socialism. And I always tell people, I grew up in a country where people fought for rights, and they had the right to vote, and then it turned into a mandatory thing where if you don't go and vote, you will get arrested. So I say it's just amazing. So the level of freedom that America provides was just amazing to me. It was so different. The opportunities, the level of freedom. And I had to not get too frustrated and vexed. I had to learn that, because I met a lot of American when I first moved that were very ungrateful of where they lived. And I would just be real outspoken and tell them, why don't you get on a boat and go. Go across the ocean, and I would tell them, you go and live there, and you leave me here. You go and live over there, since that's what you want. Of course, now I'm a little more, gentle, and I didn't know the Lord either, so I was very, because I knew what it was.
You keep entering, I didn't know the Lord, but newsflash. Many people know the Lord. I knew the Lord, and I still got pulled over more than you did. And many people today, I'm not getting pulled over, but many people today get pulled over and they know the Lord.
Yes, absolutely.
Not only that, but many people, and just as an insert for the audience as well to hear this, how many young people, because you were young, you were a teenager, you weren't even an adult. Well, based upon the experience, of course, you were in college, so 18, 19, whatever, but imagine how many 18 and 19-year-olds are being pushed to go to college. They go off to college, they get credit cards.
Right.
They have no clue what a credit card is. No. They get school loans, student loans. You didn't mention that yet, but they get student loans. They get cars on credit.
Yes.
And then they, after 20 years, their life is so upside down and so ruined.
Right.
And the parents don't know, the children don't know what's going on. Right. All of the disappointment, all of the discouragement and depression, all because just like you're expressing to us what you were going through, because people are going through all of these things and they live here.
Right.
And one of the things that you mentioned is the unthankfulness.
Right.
Because people don't even know where they live.
Right.
So that's amazing. Our time is really winding up here. We've been here, and I don't want people to have to watch long, because they have to go back even to see some of the things that's said in here. But just one more thing I want you to mention before we move on, because we're going to have to come back with more of your story, of course. But just tell about the transition of coming here through school, through the visa that you had, what it took to get here, and then being here and being in school, and how you got in and what paid for it.
So it really, after I said what I said at 14, this is really when it started, when it comes to obtaining a visa to get here through school. It takes years. Again, it might be quicker nowadays, but back then in 2000, well, it was in the 1998, 99, 2000. So I went to the American embassy and I inquired of them, how do you apply for visa? What's the stipulation if you want to apply to go to college? And I started doing my research and finding out all kinds of things. And I had realized that they only going to receive, the universities in the U.S. only gonna take the, for lack of a better word, the elite coming out of college in Europe, Asia, China. So I became very determined to have the qualification to be able to be accepted by one university. And it took a whole lot of time and dedication. And when I went to school to get my bachelor in chemistry in Belgium, it was a 4-year program. And when you go to college, you don't have a job on the side. There's no sports. It's pure academics. And because you have such an intense high school program, then it becomes very specific once you start your bachelor. And so I remember going to, college from 7 o'clock in the morning to, at times, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I mean, that's 12 hours nonstop academics with a small lunch break. And it's just studying, and long experiments that you have to do, especially in chemistry. And so I did that, and I worked diligently. I would get up at 5 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday and study all day long, because I was aiming to be picked by one of the university in the U.S. And so I can't remember all the details, but I received a letter of admission in my last year of college, finishing my bachelor, because you have to write a dissertation for your bachelor in chemistry. Your last year, you have to write a dissertation. And so I was writing my dissertation to present, and I got a letter from the University of Arizona saying that I was admitted in their program. And when you admitted, you fall under some kind of scholarship, and they pay for your tuition, and they give you some money every month to be able to afford your car, your apartment. And so they desire for you to come and do the research for them. So they go and pick the brains from overseas and bring them here, and they let them do the research. And the first 2 years of the program is very challenging. You have to take a lot of tests. And after 2 years in the program, you have to take this major exam, oral exam, and they can ask you any question of chemistry, and you also have to write a paper, and they're going to question you about the paper. And so all that was very challenging. I had some friends that left after 2 years. It was just too much. And so I passed that exam, and when I passed that exam, I moved to Atlanta, but that's not for this show. But it was it was so much studying. It was like almost being engrafted with science and math, and it was just all day, every day. And so it takes a lot. And I always encourage people, when you want to go somewhere, you have to, it's a preparation. So that's another thing that the Lord had to deal with me, because I would get irritated with people who move to the U.S. and don't even speak English. I would tell them that you would think that's the first thing you would do if you really want to come here. And so, but I had to learn that, people come here through different avenues, and they have different way of living and different experiences in lives, and you have to be merciful and open-minded. And so, but it was very it was just studying all day, every day. It just became my life.
Okay, just a quick one. Do you know how much money they paid for you to go to the university in the United States of America?
Per year, it was probably about 50 grand, I would probably think.
About 50 grand a year,
Yeah,
plus
probably.
a stipend,
Right.
or stipend included.
Maybe stipend included.
Yeah. And you didn't have to pay anything.
No, sir.
Okay. And how many Americans were in the program that you were a part of?
One.
One American.
Yes.
So I'm ending the show with this.
35 people in the lab.
Out of 35 people in your lab, one person from the United States of America, everybody else was from another nation. And how many of those people do you think were paying to go there?
Oh, I'm sure they all had, scholarship for those who.
Even the American.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
You know, I'm saying
have
this
to ask
because
him.
I know, and we know him. Maybe we ought to reach out and ask him. Because I know so many people in the United States don't understand this. They pay so much money, they get loans, they ruin their entire life to go to college. And the universities and the American government in the bed together paying people to come to our nation.
Absolutely.
To go and do the things that we are paying to do. And people don't even realize it.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we'll come back to that on the next show. Education and some other details that I think we've left out concerning education, the tie-in from Belgium to the United States, and what made you go to Arizona and not MIT or Boston or Yale or whatever, Harvard. So we'll deal with that on the next show. Look, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing some experiences with us. We have a few other experiences to share to see how did we get to life and ministry together, and why are we like we are and who we are. Well, in the meantime, I do want to share with you that we are preparing ourselves for a trip, traveling with the Agnews. We're going to be traveling to Europe within 3 weeks, actually.
Yes.
We will be traveling to Europe, and we're going to keep you updated because actually we're going to be doing shows on the road. And so I wanted to introduce that we'll be traveling to Europe, and if you want more information about that, not just us, but all of our children, 10 of us are going to Europe. And what a cultural difference we're going to show some of our friends that are watching by way of internet or television or whatever. Also, besides our trip to Europe, which I've already mentioned to some of you, we have on October the 25th, 26th, and the 27th, our Overcomers Conference. We have this yearly, and this year, 2023, the Overcomers Conference is it's gonna be amazing. The theme this year is experiencing God's power, God's wisdom, and God's nature. And you don't want to miss this year's Overcomers Conference. It's going to be crowded because finally our friends from overseas are getting an opportunity to come and be with us this year. So we also want to invite you to the 2023 Overcomers Conference. That's October 25th, 26th, and 27th. If you want more information about that, reach out to us as well. Is there any other last words for our audience today? Amen. Well, we want to thank you for joining us. This is the New Man News Network. I'm your newscaster, Amalia Agnew. This is news you can use. News from above. News that matters. Remember, as cold waters are to a thirsty soul, so it's good news from a far country. I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll be back with some more news next time. Love you, my friends.